Hello, I'm Kathleen Snyder and welcome to Backstage Antiques. This week on Backstage we are going to examine American pattern or pressed glass from 1825 to 1940. We have brought several beautiful pieces of this American craft and I'm looking forward in sharing this experience with you. Joining me is Ken Kilner of K&D Antiques, a division of the North Boulevard Antique Center located at 818 North Boulevard in Oak Park. Welcome to our program. Ken, I want to thank you for being with me tonight, and you've brought so many beautiful pieces of glass and you are so knowledgeable that I'm going to ask you to give us a little bit of history on glass as early as you can.
Well, thanks for inviting me, Kay. The history of glass, of course, goes way back into the dark recesses of time, but the early people just made little beads and stuff out of it. They weren't able to work it like we do nowadays. And the first invention that came along, or discovery, was the blowpipe, which was probably about 100 BC and done in the Near East, someplace that they think it may be in Syria, that it was discovered. And that, of course, enabled them to do all kinds of things with glass that they hadn't been before. And you have very good examples of early Roman glass that was done blowing in a mold, which continued right up till, well, the 1820s, when the next big invention was discovered. And these are samples of more recent bottles. Of course, they're not Roman, but they're done in the same way that anybody that was blowing in a mold would do. They would have had the blowpipe on the end and just formed the piece in a mold. This is an American piece that is formed that way. It's a individual salt, and the pontil mark on the back is where they stick it on another rod while they finish cutting off the bubble that was blown. And then
This is a very nice piece.
This is the next one that was next process in American glass that was invented, and they were imitating English cut glass, and there's quite a lot of this in the recorded history of glass, and the patterns are identified, and it's very highly collectible, but it's very expensive because it's so early. 1825 was when it was also being made.
Ken, can you give us a date on these bitters bottles, perhaps?
One of them is a shaker bottle made by the Shaker sect, and they made remedies that were very popular. And I didn't look up the dates on the bottles. I'm sorry.
Oh, they're very, very nice. They're beautiful colored and
it's the
nice
green color,
examples.
which is your common color for glass without clarifying it. The impurities in sand will come out with a green color.
This is an oil lamp, I believe, a little bit later.
Yes,
piece.
this would be a whale oil lamp, which was before kerosene was discovered. Is made by the Sandwich Glass Company in Sandwich, New England, Sandwich, Massachusetts. And it's one of the most famous companies that made glass in America. And some of the patents for the pressing of glass were taken out by the Sandwich Company, so that's where it started, partly. And their first experiments were crude, and so they got around it by doing the what we now call lacy glass. And this is a large piece of lacy, and I don't know if it's visible on the camera, but it's not even round, and there's quite a few imperfections in the glass, but this lacy pattern, which is a lot of little stippling that they put on it, helped to hide that, and that was why the early pressed glass is done with these brilliant designs on it.
It almost looks like crushed diamonds. It's so brilliant.
Yeah, it is very brilliant,
And it's
particularly under the
150
lights
years
here.
old. Just beautiful piece.
Yeah, and they did a lot of it and made some marvelous pieces, and it's really spectacular when you see a lot of it together.
The only time I have ever seen a piece such as this was in a museum. Can you give us a little story on that?
Well, this is a whale oil lamp, only the base is left. There would have been the top up here, and it's in flint milk glass, probably 1827 to 1830s. And this was made at New England Glass Company because this pattern has been found with the name inside this base, which is hollow, so that they know where it came from. And it was made in several types of glass besides the milk glass, but it's one of the earliest lamp bases that we have in pressed. This part is pressed.
Thank you. There's a few functional piece from...
Yeah. This is a tie back, and it's flint glass, which is lead glass, and that's what the early American glass was made from. And the stem is pewter on these early ones. Comes apart. This is screwed together here, but it was to hold your big draperies on your windows. And this is the way you'd look at it in the room. And this is around 1830s and on. And then there was a very big revival on colonial American accessories and decorations, and a lot of reproductions were done in the 20s, 1922 perhaps. And this is the version that came out then, and anybody that's into collecting glass can see that it's in the Depression glass green, and they should never mistake it for one of these early flint ones, because that is the kind of glass that doesn't ring. It's a clunk.
I brought a couple little toys that are nice early pieces, if you'd like to.
Yeah, this is a lacy child's plate, toy plate. They were delightful little pieces, and it came in sugar bowls and creamers and little tureens. And the glass makers were always up on whatever they could do to make a sale. They did all kinds of whimsies and toys, and anything they saw that was needed, if they could do it in glass, they were there. And this little candlestick is just plain molded, and there is a pontil mark on the bottom of that for finishing it off, where they did finish it off.
This is a handsome piece also.
Yes, this is a very nice master salt and lacy glass. They're quite expensive, these large ones in that early period. And this has got a lot of glitter, as you can see.
Is that a commemorative piece of the Bunker Hill?
Yes, this was blown in a mold, and but it was done in a mold that they did not have to finish off with a pontil. There's no pontil on the bottom, and it was totally done with a mold. And Bunker Hill Monument was started and took many years to build, but it was around the 1840s that they made this, and the glass companies commemorated anything that came along. They made a commemorative of it if they could. And this is the monument done in what they called alabaster glass. Nowadays it's come to be called clam broth.
Thank you, Ken. We'll be right back after a brief message. Welcome back. We're now going to do one of my favorite sections, the Heyday of American Glass from 1860 to 1910. Before we show you some of the examples that we've brought, I'd like to ask Ken to give us a little history on the ingredients that were used in the glass and from what area of the United States. Was it the Eastern or the Midwest, or if you could?
Early glass houses mostly were in the East, New York and New England, and they used wood as their fuel. And the glass originally was the lead glass, which rings and is clear, is very clear if it's done right. And then at the Civil War, lead became in short supply because of the bullets needed for the battles, and it was discovered by a workman in the Pittsburgh area that glass could be clarified by using lime and soda, which was actually bicarbonate of soda, which was much cheaper than the lead ingredients. And then some of the glass factories had started up by that time east of the Appalachians, west of the Appalachians, and they were along the Ohio River, and along there was a lot of natural gas, which allowed them to use as fuel and made a hotter possibility in the furnaces so they could work the glass even better and make a better product. So they were using that, and they got very expert at making the pattern glass and did everything in it. And I'd like to show you a transition piece that's from blown to pattern, but it's based on the same piece. Here's the blown piece in a crackled form, and then they decided they'd make it in a pressed piece, and this is what they did. They cut it in the mold looking like it, but when you put them together, in reality, they're not at all alike.
Was this done by the same glass house, do you think?
This one is done by New England Glass
New
House.
England?
This one very possibly Sandwich, but they were done in the New England area. And this is the sparkle of the old blown one is entirely different from when you have a machine-made molded piece.
And this is called overshot, isn't it?
This blown one is overshot, and this is the pattern has become to be called Tree of Life.
When the boys in the Ohio River Valley got this high firing point, what did the East Coast gentlemen decide to do?
Well, they found that they were losing the business because the people could make it better in the West, so they went into the art glass production in the New England companies, which is an entirely different program.
That's right, the beautiful art glass. We have some beautiful examples set over on the table that our camera is picking up right now.
Yeah, there's some flint milk glass, a number of the various patterns that were made in this era, of which there were thousands actually of patterns. And the large platter is called purple marble glass. And they imitated everything in glass. Marble and all kinds of other things were imitated, as well as all kinds of novelties made.
Oh, this is a very beautiful piece.
This is fairly early, and one of the colors that is early, called electric blue, and it's a crucifix candlestick, and the top is pewter because it resisted when the candle burned down. If it was a glass top, it usually cracked. So they made theirs at this company. There are many forms of this candlestick that was on the market, but this is a particularly nice one having a pewter top.
Did these come in other colors also? Or?
Yes, they came in the clam broth that we showed earlier, and it came in other colors too, as well as clear, and lots of them in milk glass.
That is a beautiful piece. This is a very interesting piece, Ken. I hope our camera can pick it up. Would you explain that to our audience?
Well, this is one of the mysteries of pattern glass making. The pattern for this, you can faintly see it, is on the inside of the glass. And the authors that have worked on books on glass have asked old workers, and they can't tell how it was done because a plunger goes in to form the mold, and when you pull the plunger out, it smooths off the inside usually. So how did they maintain this flower that's on the inside is one of the
Nobody
mysteries.
now seems to know how they've done
No,
it
it's
either.
not, I
yeah.
haven't seen it in the literature yet, and there's several patterns, about 3, that I know of in that form.
Could you explain to us this 1884 presidential plat?
Well, this is one of 4 that was put out for the political campaign of 1884, and this is James G. Blaine, and he ran with, Blaine and Logan ran together, and Cleveland and Hendricks ran together, and they put out a plate for each of the characters. They're a spectacular quality of glass with this beautiful acid-finished picture in the middle, and this little saucer is in the same pattern, but of course doesn't have the picture of the candidate on it. But it's these are some of the most spectacular plates that you can find in the pattern glass.
This is a little whimsy piece that we brought.
Yes, this is certainly a whimsy.
Nobody knows what it is.
Right. It looks like the short cup should be for matches, but what would this be? It's before the time of a lot of cigarettes on your table. The ladies didn't smoke at this time. And so it's one of our, what is it? That if anybody knows what it is, we'd appreciate hearing
We'd like
about.
to know, really. It's a lot of patterns and different designs on here. I think we'll finish the segment with showing the piece of crystalline from 1885.
This pattern looks like it could have come out of one of the modern gift shops, yet it was done in 1885, called Crystallina, and it comes with, you can faintly see the amber edge, and it comes in a brilliant green and a brilliant blue and clear, of course, and makes a spectacular setting that doesn't look like early American pattern glass at all. It looks like it's contemporary. So they had all kinds of designers, and some of them were ahead of their time.
It's just beautiful. It looks like it came out of Neiman Marcus last week. Well, now that we've seen this particular section, we'll be right back after a brief message. Thank you. Welcome back to our 20th century collectibles. This section will focus on carnival glass, stretch glass, and depression glass. Ken, can you give us a little history of carnival glass?
Well, the carnival, of course, was inspired by the iridescent glass whose most famous maker was Tiffany. And it was always originally a high-class blown glass that the common man could not afford, so the glass companies, being as hip as they were, they jumped in and provided some that the ordinary man could afford. And part of it was the carnival, which is a pressed glass, totally. And there's some handwork on some of the ruffled pieces, but it came in green background, blue background, amethyst background, and also clear. And your background really determines what color it looks like when it's done. The pieces on this is a green background piece, and it was a premium, obviously, by a furniture company because it's impressed with the name of the furniture company on the bottom and the date, 1910. So that is really, you can tell where it is from. And the dates of carnival glass was mostly 1905 to 1925, and it seemed to lose its popularity.
Well, now we know where the expression "poor man's Tiffany" came from.
Right, that's why
It's,
one of the names for it. And this piece is a rarer type piece. It's called Peach Carnival. It's a golden iridescence on the inside, but there is a opalescent edge on the bowl that goes to the clear center of the bowl. And it's one of the higher priced types of carnival glass.
I don't think I've ever seen a piece of peach other than in a book. That's a very nice piece. This is
a purple mug. Purple background means that if you hold it up to light, it will be purple glass. And it's the Singing Birds pattern by Northwood, which is one of the famous companies that made it. Many of their pieces are marked with an N. This one is not.
This truly looks like Tiffany.
This is one of the most brilliant ones that's in the collection. And I hope the camera can show all the colors. They're really all there. And it's a piece by Imperial Glass Company, who made some very good quality pieces.
Imperial is still in existence today.
Yes.
They purchased the Heisey factory in their molds, and they're still
they
producing
are
today.
reproducing pieces from old molds.
And
number.
Fenton is also reproducing some of the carnival
and
pieces.
Fenton was one of the big companies that was making carnival at that time too. This is called a tree bark vase. It's a brilliant cobalt blue behind all that iridescence. I don't know how. I think you can see the iridescence quite well.
Okay.
And this in the books is called a nut bowl, and it's quite deep, as you can see. And
Holds a lot of calories.
right, and it's also amethyst background or purple glass behind it, and made by Fenton. There are books and books out on Carnival that identify almost every pattern you can find, so that you can chase it down if you're really interested in it.
This is one of the common colors, isn't it, Ken? Marigold?
Yes, your marigold is the most common color, and it's usually done on clear glass. It shows at the bottom here. Sometimes it can be a slight amber tint to the glass underneath. And this is just a handled mug in Stork and Rush's pattern.
I think this is a rarity.
Yeah, this is what is called white carnival, totally clear glass and rather light iridescence on it, but there's plenty of iridescence that you can tell what it is, but it's one of the rarities in the white. It's also by Fenton.
I think we'll just show a couple of pieces of the stretch glass and move on to what everybody's waiting for, depression glass.
Okay, this one is an imperial piece. You can see very readily the stretch marks on it. It's in the iridescence only, of course, and this has the purple background so that it's a dark-looking piece. This is your topaz color, and is, in other words, a yellow or canary underneath. And these are both well-made pieces. They've got a ground pontil mark on them.
Maybe that cute little lemon.
This is in one of the blues that was quite popular, and this little handle is lemon server, because tea at your bridge game was very popular, and they put slices of lemon on it for the afternoon.
Thank you. Now I guess we better start on the depression glass. Depression glass was from about 1927.
1920s, some of it went back that far,
1920,
up to 1940s.
Oh my, I didn't think it went that...
The blue piece on the left is a Delphite, it's called, and that the pattern is on the back, so you can't see it from the front, but it's a popular pattern. The next is based on the lacy sandwich that we saw earlier, but this is a depression glass that they called sandwich pattern. Then we have an iris and herringbone pattern that comes in quite a large selection for a table setting. That's obtainable still today, although it's not in production.
I remember that in the dime store as a kid.
Right, right.
That seemed to be a favorite dime store in Oak Park.
Yeah,
We always have that.
there was a lot of it there. I remember it too. We have a green novelty butter dish there that's shaped like a wooden wash tub.
Oh, yeah.
And the amber piece in the background, and of course the one that you see every place is the blue, cobalt blue Shirley Temple pitcher. I think every family had one of those, and some families had the complete set of bowl and mug.
I'd like to focus on the beautiful piece of Sanibel, which is of the Depression era, but it's a finer, more elegant glass. And I think we'll close our show with showing that piece of glass along with the 1932 George Washington Centennial piece.
To the right there is the George Washington Centennial, 1932, which shows that pattern glass people were still up on things even in those days.
Well, that just about concludes our show, and thank you for joining us on Backstage Antiques. I want to thank my guest, Ken Kilner of Karen D. Antiques of the North Boulevard Antique Center located in Oak Park. Please join us next time when Backstage Antiques will focus on Japanese art with Barbara and Joe Keller from Toby House, also of Oak Park.